This is Colin welcoming you to the 2146th edition of the Enfield Talking newspaper, dated the 7th of June 2018. The readers this week are Geoffrey, Joan and Colin, with Robin on the controls. The editor was Phillip, and the production and distribution team is Peter and Sandra. Our title music is Country Rock Polka, composed by Pat Prilly, Fernand Bouillon, Harry Brewer, and performed by Jean-Jacques Perry, and is used with his kind permission. The local news stories that we will be reading come from the Enfield Independent and the Enjoy Enfield magazine and are their copyright. The events information has been collated by us from other sources. The lead story this week is the council's plan to build on the town's most well-used car park. Before the news, we have the sunrise and sunset times for the week beginning 11th of June. Sunrise, 04:43, sunset, 21:17. Do get in touch with us to share your own news and special announcements. We'd love to hear from you. If you have any comments about the Enfield Talking newspaper, please phone Diane de Jersey on 020 8805 6578. She is your listener's representative, will be pleased to help you. Now, Joan will read the first item of local news.
Hello. This is about the council's plan to build on the town's most well-used car park. Enfield Council has been criticised for a potential U-turn if it allows a commercial development on a busy town centre car park. Gelatin Road car park was deemed the town's most well-used car park in the council's Enfield Town Centre Draft Framework Master Plan, which was published in July 2017. But just 5 months later, the council revealed it was paving the way for multinational firm Metaswitch to build a new headquarters in Enfield on the site of the car park. Dickie Smart, who lives in Ridge Crest, Gordon Hill, said cutting the number of parking spaces in the town would be bad for small businesses. He said, "You only have to drive through a few times to see the number of boarded up shops. It is not the shopping centre it used to be." Taking away a significant ground level car park, bearing in mind others that have gone before, means you are partly deterring people from coming to the town. I really understand there is a fine line between the council saying it can't do something and the company upping sticks. But it is curious, the council has produced a document saying this is a critical car park. It would be interesting to understand why they can say now it is not a busy car park. Metaswitch is a communications software company with offices across the US, the UK, the Middle East, Latin America, and the Asia-Pacific region. It has been based in Enfield since it was founded in 1981 and currently operates from 3 buildings near Enfield Chase train station. The move to a new building would enable the firm to expand its workforce beyond the 348 people it already employs in the borough. An Enfield Council spokesperson said Metaswitch is currently consulting on its plans to build a new headquarters in Enfield Town ahead of submitting a planning application to Enfield Council. As part of this process, residents and town centre users will have the opportunity to have their say on those plans, and all of their comments will be considered before our planning committee makes a decision on the scheme.
This next item is headed up outrage as trust bans buses from going to hospital. An NHS trust has come under fire for scrapping bus routes outside a hospital, causing problems for patients who rely on public transport. A residents' group says North Middlesex Hospital University Trust's decision to ban the 491 and 444 buses from the Northern Perimeter Road was carried out without carrying out a formal risk assessment and should be overturned. Phillip Ridley, a committee member at Enfield Transport Users Group, claimed the ban aimed at stopping cars from following buses through an automatic barrier had caused delays for elderly residents and others who rely on public transport to get to the hospital. The trust said the ban was to prevent car drivers tailgating the buses, but the answer is not to ban the buses. Back in 2006, a lot of work went into getting the bus service from into Enfield from the hospital, and until 2006 there was no bus. You could only drive. There are certain streets where it is only bus service. According to the hospital, bus routes were scrapped because the tailgating cars proposed or posed a risk to pedestrians. On one occasion, a car crashed into the barrier, while others that made it through would often travel at high speed down the road. But a Freedom of Information request sent by Mr. Ridley to the Trust revealed no formal risk assessment was drawn up before the decision to ban the buses was made. In addition, the incidents referred to were not formally logged, and the Trust relied on eyewitness accounts by members of staff as a basis for the decision. Mr. Ridley suggested slapping hefty fines on tailgaters as an alternative to the bus ban, arguing the Trust should penalise drivers instead of inconveniencing patients. A spokesman for North Middlesex University Hospital says, "We have been in correspondence with Transport for London for over a year about ending the 491 bus route shortcuts through the hospital grounds, primarily because of pedestrian safety concerns. We've also been in correspondence with Mr. Ridley over a number of months. He has this week sent a written complaint to our chief executive, which we are dealing with under our formal complaints procedure."
Concerns over Labour's flawed selection process. The Labour Party has hit back at claims of irregularities in its candidate selection process for the recent council elections. Members of Southgate Constituency Labour Party, CLP, last week overwhelmingly backed an emergency motion calling on the National Party to investigate a selection process that at one stage saw 5 sitting black and minority ethnic councillors deselected. The motion was passed by 42 votes to 2 with 4 abstentions. Leaked documents, including internal letters, emails and motions, show serious concerns were raised within the local Labour membership about the candidate selection process and the 11th hour leadership bid that led new council leader, Councillor Nezil Councillor to victory. The 29-year-old ousted long-serving Labour leader Doug Taylor by 24 votes to 22 in a shock victory at the local party's AGM on May the 14th. But a Labour Party spokesman said Labour candidates are democratically selected by local Labour Party members. We are satisfied that this process took place in line with Labour's rules and procedures, and any suggestion to the contrary is unfounded. Southgate CLP raised concerns over irregularities in the selection process that led to a new category of candidate named potentials. It said certain questions were not asked of these candidates that would normally be essential to ensuring they were qualified. A senior local party official said this meant candidates were put forward as appropriate, even though there were serious questions about their suitability. The CLP's concerns were focused on Secretary of the Local Campaign Forum, Nezil Kaliskan, and Procedures Secretary Ian Hamilton, who both played a senior role in administering the candidate interview process. The local Labour official said, "The process Enfield Labour Party went through was flawed and open to inappropriate interference. Councillor Kaliskan has consistently failed to answer questions about the part she played in it. I call on the National Labour Party to intervene now." Following an audit of the interview process, complaints were raised about the way it was being handled by Councillor Kaliskan and Mr Hamilton, and members of the LCF drew up a list of 27 questions for them to answer. But the officers refused to engage with them, and the questions went unanswered. The questions posed include why essential questions relating to their communication skills and the length of time they had been involved in Labour activism were not asked of candidates. As a result of the apparent discrepancies, the LCF withdrew its endorsement from 9 potentials. In addition, BAME councillors and candidates wrote to Enfield LCF alleging serious procedural impropriety and calling for the process to be rerun. Councillor Kaliskan would not directly address questions.
Crackdown on housing fraud frees up 59 homes. Enfield Council has recovered 59 properties from people who had no right to reside in them. It has saved the council $850,000 in the last financial year and freed up homes for residents in need. Enfield Council recovered 59 properties from people who had no right to reside in them during 2017 to 18, with several cases still under investigation. The crackdown means the council can spend significantly less on housing families in temporary accommodation. Enfield Council's cabinet member for housing, Councillor Dino Lemonides, said, "We don't want people to make a profit by lying about their entitlement to a council property and preventing a family in genuine need from being given a home. This authority takes housing fraud very seriously, and we will fully investigate every report of illegal subletting and tenancies obtained by deception. It is completely unfair that residents in desperate need of housing cannot have a home because unscrupulous individuals want to make a fast buck. Enfield has a shortage of council homes and a large number of people waiting for more suitable accommodation. The council aims to ensure only people who are entitled to housing in the borough are given council tenancies. In the most serious cases, property fraudsters who illegally sublet their property or who lie to get a tenancy face a prison sentence. Residents can confidentially report housing fraud at www.enfield.gov.uk by emailing fraudteam@enfield.gov.uk or by calling the team on 020 8379 1000.
The next item is also about Enfield Council, and it's headed up, Council won't remove Orcas, ORCAS, from cycle lanes. It's written by Simon Allen, and it reads, Enfield Council has no plans to remove lane segregators from the borough's cycle lanes, despite fears they pose a safety risk to pedestrians. Deputy Leader Councillor Daniel Anderson confirmed the council planned to keep the segregators, which are dubbed Orcas, in place, claiming they are encouraging more people, including children and families, to cycle. His comments came after a resident of Park Crescent complained that her 82-year-old husband had injured himself after tripping over one of the Orcas while crossing the road. And she said, I don't object to cycle lanes. It is the things that are on the edge of them. My husband went flying over one. She said that she and her husband waited for an ambulance in a nearby Sainsbury's, and staff told her they'd looked after 5 or 6 other people who had been injured by the lane segregators. In March 2017, Facebook group Green Lanes SOS posted, according to Riverside Florist, several people have tripped over the plastic Orcas and one woman ended up sprawled in the middle of the road. Fortunately, there was no traffic. I warned about this at both the formal and informal consultation stages. It's interesting to note that last year, Camden Council and City of London removed Orcas from a cycle lane in Aldgate after several people tripped or fell over them. But Councillor Anderson said anyone who falls over in any way, shape or form, we're sorry to hear that and wish them a full and speedy recovery. He goes on to say, the Orcas are a standard safety feature from Transport for London. There are no Orcas at appropriate scheduled crossings, so there's no reason why anyone crossing at that point should trip over them. There are 2 metres between Orcas in other areas, so if people are looking where they are crossing, there should be no reason to trip over them. The evidence is we're seeing families using cycle lanes. More people are feeling safe.
Couples celebrate 40th anniversary and winning £60,000. A couple say their 40th wedding anniversary will be extra special this year because they won £60,000. Anthony and Kathy Holding scooped the cash from the People's Postcode Lottery when his postcode in Hood Avenue, Southgate was picked. Rufa Anthony was surprised when television presenter and lottery ambassador Jeff Brazier appeared at his door with a cheque. The 62-year-old said, "My wife Kathy and I are celebrating our 40th wedding anniversary and her 60th birthday this year, so this win has come at a really great time in life and will really change everything for us." Our kids and grandkids will definitely be getting spoilt, and I've also got a few surprises up my sleeve for Kathy too. After celebrating his windfall with a few beers, Anthony also plans to carry out home improvements. Around 32% of the price of every ticket goes to charity, so the lottery has helped raise over £301 million for 4,000 good causes across Great Britain. For more information on People's Postcode Lottery, visit www.postcodelottery.co.uk or check their Facebook and Twitter pages.
Despite the wet British weather, a showcase of vintage and classic motors was held over the weekend. The vehicles ranged from the earliest years of the 20th century right up to modern classics from the 1980s. The annual Enfield Pageant of Motoring was held in Great Cambridge Road. A pageant spokesperson said, while visitors were looking at the many different makes of car on display, a familiar remark was, "My dad had one of those," when reminiscing about Ford Anglias or Morris Minors, while they secretly wished that their dad had bought an E-Type Jaguar. The Pageant of Motoring, which is the largest event held in the Enfield area, is a major fundraiser for the White Webbs Museum of Transport, a registered charity situated in the former New River Pump House in White Webbs Road. The White Webbs Museum of Transport is open on Tuesdays and the last Sunday of the month, or by arrangement at other times.
This next item is headed up, Task Force aims to increase use of electric vehicles. The London Assembly has praised the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, as he launches a new task force to increase the number of charging points for electric vehicles in the city. Mr. Khan announced on Monday that he's launching a new electric vehicle task force to increase the number of charging points for the vehicles and increase the number of them in use in the capital. The move comes as a bid by the Mayor to tackle poor air quality across London. Currently, there are 128 charging points across the capital, including those installed by private sector organisations. A total of 104 of these charging points were installed by TfL. The task force will be delivered in partnership with the private sector and comprises 16 organisations, including UK Power Network, the British Retail Consortium and the RAC Foundation. The work of the task force will be outlined further through technical workshops run by Transport for London over the summer and a shared delivery plan to be published next year. Earlier this month, the London Assembly Environment Committee published a report into electrical vehicles which called for a pan-London approach to electric vehicles. The report also found that the growth in electrical vehicles is now outstripped by the number of charging points available for them. Responding to the Mayor's announcement today, the chairman of the London Assembly Environment Committee, Caroline Russell, said it was good to see the Mayor moving towards getting more charging points in London. Ms Russell pointed out there's no point in having an electric vehicle if you can't charge it.
And now for a sporting item, football. Record crowd as Towners host World Football Cup. Enfield Town's Queen Elizabeth Stadium hosted its largest ever crowd at the weekend as 1,500 fans packed into the ground to watch Conifer World Football Cup action continue. The stadium is hosting a number of games during the tournament, including Saturday's third place playoff and final, which will be refereed by former Premier League official Mark Clattenburg. The tournament is for teams which are not affiliated with football governing body FIFA, and Enfield played host to its first match last Thursday in Group B when current holders Abkhazia took on Tibet. Abkhazia opened the scoring in the 14th minute before second half strikes sealed a 3-0 win over Tibet, who had to play the dying seconds with 10 men after one of their defenders was sent off. Later the same day, Northern Cyprus were also in action at the Queen Elizabeth Stadium, but they couldn't get off to a winning start as they were held by Carpatalia. It was Cyprus who struck first, but they were pegged back by Carpatalia, who hadn't trained before the game. Just 6 minutes after half-time, as one-time Plymouth Argyle striker Georgie Sandor calmly slotted past the goalkeeper. Both teams had chances to win the match, but Cyprus, like Tibet earlier in the day, would also play out the final few minutes with 10 men after one of their players was given his marching orders. The Queen Elizabeth Stadium then played host to its biggest ever crowd on Saturday, as an estimated 1,500 fans flocked into the ground to see Northern Cyprus pick up their second win of the tournament with a 3-1 win over Tibet. Cyprus took the lead barely a minute into the game. Further chances came and went for Cyprus, who were punished for their profligacy in front of goal when Tibet equalised 4 minutes before half-time, to the delight of the fans inside the stadium. But Turan would put Cyprus back in front in the 66th minute after he notched his second of the game by a well-executed chip, sealing the victory. Earlier the same day, fans inside the ground had seen Abkhazia down by Carpatalia. Things went from bad to worse for Abkhazia on Sunday, as their reign as holders came to an end when they were knocked out of the tournament after being held by Northern Cyprus. After Turan had missed a glorious opportunity for Cyprus, Abkhazia took the lead in the 18th minute, when an effort from 20 yards flew into the back of the net. Unal Kaya nodded home from a set piece to get Cyprus back on level terms, and the visitors took the lead 15 minutes after the break when Ozhan pounced on a mistake to put his side in front. Vladimir Argan converted a late penalty from Abkhazia to set up a nervy finish, but it proved to be too little, too late, as the reigning champions were dumped out. Western Armenia then thrashed Kabylia 4-0 later the same day. Enfield will host one semi-final tomorrow before the third place playoff and final take place at the Queen Elizabeth Stadium this Saturday.
This item is entitled Friendship Matters, and it's about an event to be held at the Dugdale Centre on Friday the 22nd of June. Friendship Matters. We can help you to be independent, to live healthily, to make friends. Join us at our free event. There will be information and advice available, or just pop in to enjoy a cup of tea or coffee, a cake and a chat. If you or anyone you know, a relative, friend, neighbour, would benefit from this event, please let them know. Free refreshments. And this is all happening at the Dugdale Centre on Friday the 22nd of June from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m.
The next item is of a medical nature. It's headed up Criteria for Surgery to be reassessed. Criteria for having a hip or knee replacement of the NHS is being assessed in a scheme that will affect patients in the capital. Healthwatch Enfield, an independent organisation focused on health and social care services, has revealed that a clinically led programme called London Choosing Wisely is looking into access to knee and hip surgery. The purpose of the review is to develop London-wide policies for 8 treatment areas. Healthwatch Enfield Chief Executive Patricia Majinska said less than 12 months ago, Enfield saw changes to certain procedures available on the NHS, and they were introduced, as I said, less than 12 months ago. London Choosing Wisely is currently undertaking work to standardise access criteria for further NHS-funded treatment. At Healthwatch Enfield, we will be working with local communities to ensure their opinions are considered when decisions are made. I encourage all residents of the borough to get involved either directly or through Healthwatch Enfield. These treatment areas are being looked at to ensure patients across London have consistent access to treatment. And of course, 2 of the procedures being reviewed currently are primary hip replacement and knee replacement.
Another sporting item, this time on cricket. Bonus point consolation in first league loss. Enfield's good start to the Middlesex League Division 2 season suffered a setback on Saturday as they sustained a first loss of the campaign against Harrow St Mary's. After losing a crucial toss, Enfield was sent into bat on a wicket highly conducive to seam bowling. Their opponents bowled well as a unit to dismiss Enfield for 150, with only Jack Plum, 35, and Sam Smythe, also 35, able to offer any real resistance. Conditions gradually became easier for batting as the sun shone, and despite some accurate bowling from Tom Bolt, Dan Amidi and Les Edwards, St Mary's were able to inch over the winning line for the loss of 5 wickets with 8 balls to spare. The only small positive for the hosts was securing 2 bonus points in a losing cause. The following day, Enfield visited Premier League side Finchley in the 3rd round of the National Club Championship. Batting first, the away side posted 210 for 9 in their allotted 40 overs, with the biggest contributions from Rayan Hassan, 60, Ayush Sahuta, 55, and captain Kyle Bacchus-Brown, 31. The game was evenly poised as Patrick Blair and Edwards kept things tight early on, but Finchley's Rahul Virginity made a whirlwind 90 from 67 deliveries that turned the game in favour of the home team, who reached 211 for 6 with 10 balls remaining. A century from captain Delaray to Blanche helped Winchmore Hill to a convincing 2nd Division 2 league victory of the season at the expense of Eastcote. The Skippers, unbeaten 103, along with 42 from Mitchell Todd and Sam Weller's 32, were the significant scores as Hill posted 247 for 7. Eastcote's reply got off to a solid start as they reached 78 before the second wicket went down. But Hill then took control and bowled their opponents out for 142 to wrap up a 105-run win. Todd was also in good form with the ball as well, taking 5 for 30 from his 9 overs, while Jim Gatting and Jack Irwin weighed in with 2 wickets each. Neil Watts showed his teammates higher up the order how it should be done with a fine batting display to fire Southgate Adelaide to a dramatic victory that had looked highly improbable for the most part. Set a target of 216 for 9 by Wheat Hempstead in their Hertfordshire League Division 3 clash, Adelaide looked to be heading for a first league defeat of the season when they fell to 69 for 6. A stand of 66 between Watts and Liam Farrell offered Southgate encouragement, but when Connor Johnson was the next man out with a score on 151, the odds remained firmly stacked in Wheat Hempstead's favour. But that was as good as it was to get for the visitors, as Watts' 85 not out compiled an undefeated 66-run 9th wicket alliance with Anthony Morris to see his side over the finishing line with 1 ball to spare.
This is a letter from a Mr. Clive Jones. It's headed, "Give Yourself a Break." Some topics are not very newsworthy, but are nonetheless very important because they affect a lot of people. Craig Fenning's letter on al desco eating, opinion, Enfield Independent, 23rd of May, on the subject of lunch breaks was one of these. Namely, the way that people's quality of life and health and well-being can be forgotten in the pursuit of productivity of modern-day office life. He's right when he says that getting away from the desk, walking around a bit and breathing some fresh air are so important. It is what the human body is meant to do, after all. Not only does exercise feel good, well, okay, perhaps that's debatable, but raising one's heart rate and getting the circulation going reduces the prevalence of modern lifestyle health problems such as diabetes, stroke, and obesity. People who drive to work, do a desk job, don't exercise outside work, and eat their lunch at their desk are taking a risk with their health. In my old job in transport and distribution, I can think of many examples where the demands of the job had directly deleterious effects on employees' health. Repetitive strain injury, chronic back pain, tendinitis, sheer fatigue. These were all products and problems caused by overly onerous work in an industry that went from almost paternalistic in its outlook to arch-capitalist in a few short years. Of course, those problems were from a physically demanding job, but those linked with physical inactivity are much more pernicious because they tend to be symptomless for many years. But conditions such as diabetes are difficult to put right. For those who can, I would say, ban those al desco lunches and give yourself the midday break in the sunshine that you deserve.
This edition is being recorded on June the 7th, so the next item is particularly relevant. It is headed up DDay Veterans, and it reads, "On the 74th anniversary of the D-Day landings, the Royal British Legion and the UK government are asking the country's remaining D-Day veterans to register their intention to attend the 75th commemorations of the Normandy landings next year. D-Day veterans will be asked to register on the Royal British Legion's purpose-built website, which is www.britishlegion.org.uk/D-Day75. The public is also being asked to help spread the message and assist any D-Day veteran they may know in accessing the website or contacting the Legion to ensure that as many veterans as possible are able to attend these very poignant commemorations. Veterans are being encouraged to get in touch early so they can mark the occasion according to their wishes. Commonly referred to as D-Day, the Normandy landings began on June the 6th, 1944, when Allied forces launched a combined naval, air and land assault on Nazi-occupied Europe. The Legion and the government are working with partners including the Commonwealth War Graves Commission, the Normandy Memorial Trust and the Spirit of Normandy Trust to plan significant commemorations to mark D-Day 75, both in France and across the UK.
With the World Cup imminent, this is an article about why England fans have reasons to be cheerful. The future looks bright for England, yet you cannot blame fans for approaching this summer's World Cup with an undercurrent of pessimism. The Three Lions are heading to Russia, fresh from arguably the Football Association's best year since Bobby Moore lifted the Jules Rimet Trophy on home soil in 1966. England became just the second nation ever to win the under-17 and under-20 crowns in the same year, helping make 2017 the country's greatest in development football. The Young Lions also retained the Toulon tournament title, lifted the Under-19 European Championship for the first time, and reached the semi-finals of the Under-21 Euros, offering an exciting glimpse of the future. Few appear better placed than Gareth Southgate to exploit that array of talent, having spent years working in key roles within the FA's youth system. The England manager is connecting the pathways and fast-tracking potential into the senior squad in the lead-up to the World Cup, with his 23-man group for Russia exemplifying his focus on promise and performance. From uncapped fullback Trent Alexander-Arnold to a trio of goalkeepers boasting a mere 9 caps between them, Southgate is not only nodding to the future, but showing his belief that these players can right the wrongs of recent tournaments. 4 years ago, Roy Hodgson's men had not even finished their course of malaria tablets by the time they were knocked out at group stage with their lowest ever World Cup points tally. There are just 5 survivors from that squad in this summer's 23, while Southgate has made 12 alterations to the group that somehow stooped even lower at Euro 2016 by bowing out to Iceland. It was a loss that sent the national team into a tailspin. Hodgson, Walt and successor Sam Allardyce managed just 67 days in his dream job before England under-21's boss Southgate parachuted into the post, a matter of weeks after admitting he did not feel ready for the top job. But the 57-cap former defender has dealt with the situation manfully making decisions that some suggested he was too nice to confront, such as easing out record scorer Wayne Rooney. Solidity at the back has yet to bring a glut of goals, but March's win in Holland and a draw against Italy were encouraging performance from players who appear comfortable wearing the three lions and all that entails. Rather than be cowed by previous failures, Harry Kane spoke of his ambition to win the World Cup within hours of his appointment as skipper. Southgate made the appointment in a bid to bring more responsibility and accountability to a group that has lacked just that in recent tournaments. Belgium will be a tough nut to crack, but Tunisia and Panama give the Three Lions a good chance of reaching the knockout phase. After that, it is up to England to show they can be a force to be reckoned with at senior level on the world stage once more.
The Enfield Carers Centre are holding a family fun day on the 16th of June, Saturday, at the Library Green, Enfield Town. There will be raffles and tombola stalls, music, live auctions, bouncy castles, live entertainment, food and drink, special character appearances, and sports memorabilia auctions. Looks like fun, folks. That is on the Library Green from 12 noon till 4 in the afternoon. And it's on June the 16th on Saturday. See you there.
The next item is headed up, figures show rising levels of obesity among school children. More than a quarter of Year 6 school children in Enfield are obese. According to figures obtained by the local government association, 25.8% of Year 6 children, that is 10 and 11-year-olds in the borough, are overweight. The data measured obesity levels in primary school children in the UK for the year 2016-17 and showed that 6.08% of school children in Year 6 are severely obese. Figures for Enfield are higher than the London average, which show that 23.6% of children in Year 6 are obese and 5.28 are severely obese. Commenting on the figures, Enfield Council's leader, Councillor Nezul Kalisba, said that the council works closely with NHS bodies to help children develop healthy lifestyles early in life. She said, the earlier we help children and young people to establish good habits like healthy eating and physical activities, the better the long-term health outcomes we will see. Our schools work hard with parents and pupils on the importance of healthy eating to adopt healthy eating policies. They educate pupils on the importance of healthy eating, food growing, and offer high-quality, nutritious school meals. However, we are of the view that the reduction in public health grants should be reversed by the government and further reforms need to be made to tackle childhood obesity more effectively. Last year, the government announced an 84 million cut in public health grants for councils for 2018. Councillor Izzy Seacombe, chairman of the LGA's Community Wellbeing Board, said, unless we tackle this obesity crisis, today's obese children will become tomorrow's obese adults whose years of healthy life will be shortened by a whole host of health problems.
We have reached the end of our programme for this week. Thank you for listening. So from the team of Joan, Geoffrey and Colin, and Robin on the controls, it's goodbye. Please remember to turn over the address label in your postal packet. Put the memory stick into the packet in a closed position and return it to us as soon as possible in readiness for the next edition. Don't forget, you can call Diane de Jersey regarding any help you may require in connection with Enfield Talking Newspaper on 020 8805 6578. Coming up next, the latest news and information for the Greater London area from InfoSound. The Enfield Talking Newspaper will be with you again in 1 week's time.